Hey, I'm Courtney, and I'm in a group with Cody and Jill and Julian and Haley. And we got to serve this semester at Cornerstone Baptist Church with their after-school care and their kids club. So basically, Cornerstone seeks to offer an after-school care for just kids in the area, specifically inner city kids, help them with homework, provide just a safe place for them to complete just kind of their academic learning after school, and just really provide a place that they can be safe at. And Cornerstone does a really good job of not turning anyone away, so they offer just a great environment for these kids. So we got to see a little bit about that. So we're going to tell you a little bit about just the areas of management that we saw through their organization, some of the strengths as well as some of their weaknesses, and the areas that we think they could improve in their organization. So there you go.
No, that's not happening back there.
What you taking? Just taking pictures.
Baptist Church is where Group 4 did our service learning project. The planning strategy for Cornerstone Baptist Church's after-school program was Monday through Wednesday, they do rotations, and on Thursday they do 3 days. Something that the program could work on or improve would definitely be how they run the rotations. You don't really need a volunteer at every single station. If you have 3 to 4, it probably could work just fine and smoothly. But what they do need to focus on is keeping the kids at one rotation at a time. They let kids go from one place to another and just let them run wild, or not run wild, but kind of not organized. If they even just set a timer and a group of kids at every station, in every 15 minutes, the timer would go off and the kids would go from one station to another, I feel like that would work a lot better. Go.
Things that they do well in the organization is that they adjust quickly to schedule changes due to lack of volunteers, and they give praise to the children when they succeed academically.
Another positive thing our program did was feeding the kids. They had a planned meal for when the kids came in and when the kids would leave. They had a yummy snack and a yummy dinner. The kids really enjoy the food, and it's one thing that they really look forward to.
Our recommendation for the organization is that they take a little extra time to schedule what they plan to do each month. Maybe have a meeting at the end of each month to talk about the next month and setting up what they want the kids to do on the computers, like the crafts, or separating them for homework, and having them sign which people are to work each station and rules and regulations at each station. So if the person cannot make it a day, then another person can take their place.
Definition we will use from the textbook about organization is organizational architecture, and it's just about the different types of organizations that put together and effectively and efficiently use the resources that they are given.
Okay, so Cornerstone Baptist Church has a pretty laid-back atmosphere when it comes to organizing. Their tables are set up in a U shape, and the kids can pretty much sit wherever they want. And as far as their kind of rules go for the kids, there aren't a ton of rules implemented, just kind of the basics like no fighting, things like that. Because it is a non-profit, they are definitely in need of volunteers. So that's something that they could definitely use more of. But something that's really stood out to us as far as something that Cornerstone does well is the fact that they make do with what they have. Whether it is not many volunteers that day, like they make it work, which is something that definitely stood out to us as something that they're very good at. Another thing that stood out to us is the way they serve the meals. They make sure that the kids have a meal before they go home each day, so they're not going home hungry, which definitely stood out to us as something that was a positive aspect to their organization. They make sure that the kids get a meal before they go home, and are very organized in that sense because they do it assembly line style. As far as something that they could improve on is the homework time. The homework time is very unstructured, and oftentimes kids might lose their homework or their pens and pencils because there's 40 some odd kids working on homework at the same time. So this is something that they could have a more organized structure implemented for. So that's just something that stood out to us as something that they could work on is that homework time. Our recommendation for Cornerstone as far as organizing goes would be two things. First of all, possibly setting up tables designated by grade or age of student, so that when they're doing their homework, they're doing it with other kids their age. And we think that would increase their learning and things like that. Another thing that we thought would be beneficial is maybe a cubby system, just crates or cubbies on the ground, even somewhere for the kids to put their stuff. It would keep their things more organized, and if their things are more organized, then a lot of their activities, such as homework time and meal time, would be more organized as well. They're not, jumping over bags and things like that. So we think those are two practical ways that Cornerstone can benefit their organizational strategy.
Definition of leader is having great importance, guidance, and direction.
The leader of the child care program is Mr. Andre, and he has leaders who work underneath him. There's a leader who makes the food for the children, and there's a leader who makes the activity sheet for the kids when they finish their homework. They encourage the children and the volunteers to have a positive Christ-like attitude. They encourage them to dress appropriately and to use appropriate language.
One thing that this child care program does really well on is the attitudes of the leaders. They have about 6 to 10 leaders there from Monday through Thursday, and they always welcome the kids with smiles. They welcome the volunteers with smiles. They're super positive, upbeat, outgoing, and they're always giving a Christ-like reflection for the kids to follow. Something that this program's leader was really good at was the amount of responsibility he has. He was responsible for so many different things, like keeping up with the kids' grades and making sure that the program is doing well and benefiting the kids. He was in charge of making sure that there was enough materials for all the kids and making sure that everything was going over in order. He was very good at delegating his job, so he was not overstressed. That Cornerstone Baptist Church's after-school program could work on is the contacting for the leaders. We contacted them. We called the number that was on the paper. It took them a while to get back to us, and when they did, they just gave us another number, said contact this lady. She was the secretary of the church. I then called her. She sent me to Mr. Andre, gave me his number, and then we ended up texting the information back and forth to each other. So it would definitely be like the contact for the volunteers that they would have to work on. Maybe just giving Mr. Andre's number or the different programs that the church could work on. give different numbers for them to contact. So it's not just one person you're contacting and then contacting 3 or 4 different people to get to the main leader of that specific program. It's giving each program's leader the number.
Definition from the textbook about control is evaluating an organization's goals and making sure and improving or maintaining an organization's performance.
Kids, I think they could improve on keeping track of the kids, because it's hard to tell who all they have coming in and out of there. I don't think they have like a set roster, so I think they could improve by maybe getting a roster together and having like some parent information and kind of checking off who's there, so they can just keep better track of those kids. That's one thing they can improve on. Also, requiring the volunteers to fill out some information. I feel like whenever we walked up, I mean, we just told them who we were with and what we wanted to do,